Welcome you all in the presentation of Module 3 of Water Resource Engineering and Hydrology subject, which is Groundwater Hydrology. I am Trupti Pandya from Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Technical Education and Research Center, Navsari. So, previously we have discussed about hydrology. What is hydrology? Hydrology is a science of occurrence, distribution, and movement of rainfall water on below or beneath the earth's surface. Now, what is groundwater hydrology? The science of occurrence, distribution, and movement of water below the surface of earth, right? It is known as groundwater hydrology. These are the contents of our discussion. The contents are groundwater occurrence, types of aquifers, aquifer parameters, Darcy's law, measurement of coefficient of permeability of soil, types of well. So let's start with basic about groundwater. Now what is groundwater? Groundwater is water that exists in the pore spaces and fractures in rocks and sediments beneath the unsaturated zone of soil, which can flow freely into a well, tunnel, springs, etc. In one sentence, groundwater is defined as the water that occur below the surface of earth, right? Means it is a subsurface water, right? So this is simple definition. This definition which you see in this slide is detailed definition of groundwater. So you can write down any one of the definition for groundwater, for definition of groundwater. Now, what is the source of groundwater? Obviously, the source of groundwater is precipitation, right? But that portion of precipitation which infiltrate into the soil is become groundwater, right? So the groundwater storage is done by infiltration and percolation. The main advantage of groundwater use is it is free from pollution and other turbidities, right? And groundwater is very useful for domestic use in small towns and farms, right? Let's see the groundwater occurrence, how we get or how the storage occur below earth's surface, right? So groundwater occurrence mainly depend on porosity of soil, saturated and unsaturated zones below earth's surface, permeability of soil, aquifer, different geological formations, and storage coefficient. This is the well-known theory, the occurrence of groundwater. The subsurface occurrence of groundwater may be divided into zones of aeration and saturation. Let's see the figure. So the below earth surface, the water zones are divided into two parts. Zone of aeration, zone of saturation, or unsaturated zone and saturated zone. Now, this division is done by first ground surface. One minute. Okay. This division is done by ground surface and water table. Right. So, from water table to ground surface, zone is known as unsaturated zone, and the unsaturated zone is defined as that portion of soil in which the pores are filled with water as well as air, and the pressure is atmospheric, right? unsaturated zone. Further, the unsaturated zone is divided into three parts: soil zone, subsoil zone, and capillary fringe. Right? Fine. Now, below water table, the zone of water storage is known as saturated zone. Here, the spaces or the pores between the particles are totally saturated with water, and the pressure is hygroscopic pressure, right? So this is the basic distribution of groundwater: zone of saturation and zone of aeration, or unsaturated zone and saturated zone. Let's see. Now, second part is types of geological formation, how the geology below Earth's surface is formed. So there are many types: aquifers, aquitard, aquiclude, and aquifuse. Let's see one by one. This is the important topic in exam point of view, the types of aquifer. Right. So this figure show you how the groundwater recharge occurs and how the geological formation is there below the earth surface. So this is a schematic cross section of aquifer type. Let's see this figure from here. This is, I can say, a recharge area. Means the rainfall water directly percolate from here or infiltrate from here, and it become part of groundwater. Right. Next is water table. Now this is potentiometric surface, imaginary surface. Now the saturated portion and unsaturated zone. Here these are the impermeable layer of soil in which means hard rock strata or impermeable strata is there. Now the water stored between this hard strata is confined portion, so this is confined aquifer, I can say. Now above one layer there is no impermeable layer, soil layer is there, so I can say this is unconfined aquifer. Right? Fine. Let's see, these are the different types of well, like water table well, artesian well, and this line show water table. One more aquifer is there, perch water table well, that we will discuss later in later slide. So this is common figure for types of aquifer and occurrence of groundwater. Means how from the recharge area the groundwater become means the infiltrate water become the groundwater, right? So this figure or this schematic cross section is important for theory of occurrence of groundwater as well as for explanation of types of aquifer. Let's see. First we will see what is aquifer and then we will discuss about its type. Now what is aquifer? This definition is very important. An aquifer is a groundwater reservoir composed of geologic units that are saturated with water and sufficiently permeable to yield water in a suitable quantity to wells and springs. So, what is an aquifer? In one sentence, it is formation of ground which contain groundwater and may transmit water in a suitable quantity. Right? This is definition for you, right, to remember. Right? So sand, gravel deposits, sandstones, limestones, and fractured crystalline rocks are example of geological units that forms aquifer. So aquifer is a geological formation which contain groundwater and transmit it. Now, aquifer provide two important functions: to transmit groundwater from areas of recharge to areas of discharge to provide a storage medium for usable quantity of groundwater. And third, the amount of water a material can hold depends upon its porosity. Types of aquifers. Basically, there are two types: unconfined aquifer, confined aquifer. Let's see one by one. This is the most important topic. You have to remember what is confined aquifer, what is unconfined aquifer. An unconfined aquifer is one in which water table forms the upper surface of the zone of saturation. It is also known as water table aquifer, phreatic aquifer, or non-artesian aquifer. We will see the figure and you get clear idea about what is confined and unconfined aquifer. Let's first go through this slide. Now, what is aquifer? Aquifer is a geological formation which store water. If we want to store water, we want container. So here the container is impermeable strata, right? So the bottom portion of unconfined aquifer is impermeable strata and its upper portion is water table, right? So an unconfined aquifer having water table on its top and bottom layer is impermeable strata. Now, contour maps and profiles of water table can be prepared. How we will find whether here on ground where the unconfined aquifer and confined aquifer. So for that, with the help of contour map, groundwater table prepared from elevations of water in the well that tap the aquifer to determine the quantity of water available and their distribution and movement. What is confined aquifer? Confined aquifer is the one in which groundwater is confined under pressure greater than atmospheric by overlaying relatively impermeable strata. It is also known as artesian or pressure aquifers. So, confined aquifer is an aquifer sandwiched between two impermeable strata. Water enters a confined aquifer in an area where the confined bed rises to the surface. Water may also enter by leakage through a confining beds. So if upper layer is impermeable, bottom layer is impermeable. So from where we get water in confined aquifer? So that these two impermeable layers extend up to the ground surface. So with that type of formation, we get water in the confined aquifer from the ground itself. Confined aquifer display only small changes in storage and serves primarily as conduit for conveying water from recharge area to location of natural or artificial discharge. So this is one figure to explain you confined aquifer and unconfined aquifer. So here this is impermeable layer, bottom also impermeable layer. So between two impermeable layer, if we get water, then this zone is known as confined aquifer. Second, if top is groundwater table and if one impermeable strata is there and if we get water between them, then it is known as unconfined aquifer. I hope it is clear. Now, this is the figure you have to draw in exam. Confined aquifer, unconfined aquifer. What is the difference? Confined. Confined means fixed. No, matlab, the top and bottom boundary are fixed, that it is known as, in between portion is known as confined, while unconfined aquifer, the aquifer is free on top because it is groundwater table, and groundwater table elevation always vary place to place, right? So confined aquifer means its top and bottom layer is impermeable layer, and if we get water in between, then this type of geological formation is known as confined aquifer. And if a geological formation having bottom impermeable layer and top surface is water table, then the water available in between is, or that portion of geological formation is known as unconfined aquifer, right? So second difference between them, confined aquifer is the flow of water is pressurized because it is confined or fixed between two impermeable layers, so it is pressurized flow, while this unconfined aquifer, the pressure is atmospheric because top surface is water table, right? So with this terminology we can say that unconfined aquifer is known as water table aquifer, phreatic aquifer, and non-artesian aquifer. Just remember this name, right? Sometimes in exam they have written what do you mean by phreatic aquifer. So phreatic aquifer is nothing but the unconfined aquifer, right? It is also known as water table aquifer because its top layer is water table itself. Now, what is unconfined aquifer? Unconfined aquifer is also known as artesian or pressure aquifer. Aquitard. An aquitard is a partially permeable geological formation through which seepage is possible. First property, it transmits water at such a slow rate that the yield is insufficient. Second property, pumping by valves is not possible. Third property. Now, what is aquitard? Aquitard is a geological formation which is permeable, right? So, but we cannot pump out water from that section. And the example of aquitard is sandy clay, right? Aquiclude. Aquiclude is impermeable layer of soil that permits storage of water but does not transmit it. We cannot transmit water from that geological formation, which is known as aquiclude, and the example is clay. Aquifuse. An aquifuse is a geological formation which doesn't have interconnected pores. It is neither porous nor permeable. Thus, it can neither store water nor transmit it. It refuses the storage and transmission of water. And the example is rocks, right? Rocks never store or transmit water, right? So for definition purpose, you have to remember the types of aquifers. Okay, an artesian well is simply a well that doesn't require a pump to boring water to the surface. This occurs when there is enough pressure in the aquifer. The pressure force in the pressure forces the water to the surface without any sort of assistance. So if we dug a well up to the depth of confined aquifer, we directly get water on the surface without pumping it because the water is already pressurized. So from confined aquifer zone we get pressurized water. This is one of the figure which show the types of aquifer. So aquifer having an impermeable layer, and that layer itself is known as aquiclude. Now, this is end of topic number 2, types of aquifer: confined, unconfined aquifer, and 3 other types: aquiclude, aquitard, aquifuse. Please remember the figure. Now, these are the parameters. Properties of aquifers. This is same as properties of soil. Properties are porosity, specific yield, specific retention, coefficient of permeability, transmissibility, specific storage, and storage coefficient. So this figure, simple figure, we show that the soil formation is such that the voids or the spaces between the soil particles or geological any formation like sand or rock or sand particles are filled with water, but it cannot transmit it. Then that type of formation is known as impermeable. While impermeable formation means these spaces between the particles is stored with water and it is also transmitted by them. Permeable. Porosity. Let's see one by one the property or the parameters of aquifer. Porosity, it is the amount of pores or open space between soil particles. In sediments or sedimentary rock, the porosity depends on grain size, shape of the grains, and the degree of shorting and the degree of cementation. In rock, the porosity depends on the extent, spacing, and pattern of cracks and fractures. So, how many voids or pores are there in the geological formation is known as porosity, and different types of geological formation like clay, sandy clay, rocks having different porosity. Well-rounded coarse grain sediment usually have higher porosity than fine grain sediment because the grain doesn't feed together well. This figure shows that if there is no space, so no porous, zero porosity or non-permeable. Unconnected pore space, then porous, and connected pore space, very porous and permeable, right? Second, specific yield. It is the ratio of the volume of water that drains from the groundwater storage due to the attraction of gravity or by pumping from the well to the total volume of saturated aquifer. So volume of water withdraw divided by total volume of aquifer. This is the example for drainage and get specific yield. Specific retention. It is the ratio of volume of water that cannot be drained out to the total volume of the saturated aquifer. So if the total volume in the aquifer or saturated aquifer is there, and how much amount of water we can withdraw is known as its specific yield. Well, how much amount of water retain is known as specific retention. The specific retention increases with decreasing grain size. Soil having low permeability may not easily drain out. For example, clay has high porosity but low specific yield and its permeability is low. So, highly permeable geological formation having more specific yield, while low permeable materials having low specific yield, and if specific yield is low, retention is more. So non-permeable material or low permeable material, specific retention volume of water is more. Coefficient of permeability. It is the ease with which water can flow in a soil mass or rock. Permeability. So we can transmit water or water transfer from one pore to other or one formation to other. The ease with which water can flow is known as permeability. Now, it is denoted as K is equal to discharge per unit area, right? Unit hydraulic gradient. It is usually expressed as centimeter per second, meter per second, or meter per day. The coefficient of permeability is also called hydraulic conductivity. Transmissibility. It is the discharge rate at which water is transmitted through a unit width of an aquifer under a unit hydraulic gradient. So discharge rate. It is usually discharge rate means meter cube per day per meter per width. That's why it is meter. Specific storage. It is the amount of water per unit volume of a saturated formation that is stored or expelled from storage. Amount of water per unit volume. Next, storage coefficient continue. It is the volume of water released from storage or taken into storage. The storage coefficient is a dimensionless, right? Ratio of volume per volume. That's why it is dimensionless. And the range from 0.02 to 0.3 in unconfined aquifers. Permeability is measure of soil ability to permit water to flow through its pores or voids. Now, gradually we will briefly discuss about permeability because it is the most important I can say parameter for groundwater hydrology or to extract groundwater, right? Or for construction or to get water in the well, construction of well, or how we will get water into the well. That's why I will discuss about permeability. So it is ability of soil to permit water. The knowledge of the permeability property of soil is necessary to estimate the quantity of groundwater seepage, solving problems involving pumping seepage water from construction excavation. So let's see the factor affecting permeability. Grain size. Smaller the grain size, smaller the voids, and thus the lower the permeability. Like sand and clay, their grain size is very small, so the spacing between them is means the void space is very small. They are very compact, right? That's why their pores are less, permeability is also less. They cannot transmit water properly. Void ratio. What is the relation? Because water is stored in the void, so increase in the porosity tends to an increase in permeability. If voids are more water is there, it is pervious and permeable. Composition. The influence of soil composition on permeability is generally insignificant in case of gravels, sand and shales unless mica and organic matters are present. So composition is not much affect permeability of soil. Soil structural. Fine-grained soil with a flocculated structure have higher coefficient of permeability than those with dispersed structure. Degree of saturation. Higher the degree of saturation, higher is the permeability. Presence of untrapped air and other foreign material. Reduce the permeability of soil. There's any extra particles than water always reduce permeability, right? So clear soil structure, permeability will be more. Now how we will find out the coefficient of permeability. Ultimately, these are the methods, or we can say taste, to find out the permeability of soil by knowing the coefficient of permeability. So with the help of laboratory test, constant head permeability test, and falling or variable head permeability test. Constant head permeability test is suitable for coarse grained soil, and falling head suitable for fine grained soil. So these are the laboratory tests. Some field tests are there: pumping out test, pumping in test. And if we don't have instrument, then indirect method, computation from the particle size, and computation of permeability from consolidation test results. Now, if we study permeability deeply, we have to know about the Darcy's law. So Darcy's law is an equation that describes the flow of fluid through a porous medium. So it is study about the flow in detail. The law was formulated by Henry Darcy in 1856 based on result of experiments on the flow of water through beds of sand. And the statement of Darcy's law is this: for laminar flow through saturated soil mass, the discharge per unit time is proportional to the hydraulic gradient. So, in one sentence, the discharge means Q in proportion with hydraulic gradient means I. Q proportional to I is the equation of Darcy's law. So this is the equation of Darcy's law. Q is equal to KIA. If we reduce, let's see the assumptions made for Darcy's law. The flow is laminar. The flow is laminar. Flow follow a definite path and does not cross the path of other particles. Laminar flow means the water flow in one layer. So this is the first assumption. To apply Darcy's law to find out permeability of soil, the flow must be laminar. Water and soil are incompressible, means continuity equation is assumed to be valid. The soil is saturated. The flow is steady state. The flow condition do not change with time. This is the one figure of Darcy's law apparatus, right? It is same as, I can say, Reynolds number experiment, like that. So the equation is Q is equal to KAI, where I is hydraulic gradient and hydraulic gradient is HL by L. Gradient indicate the vertical height divided by horizontal height, right? So if this is the experimental status, if you want to find out the discharge, so one container is there with a constant head is maintained in that, and if we insert two pitot tube and at a length L, then find out the decrease in the top of the surface, or we can say hydraulic gradient line, and that difference between difference of water level between two pitot tube is known as HL, and the distance between the pitot tube or the tube inserted for experimental purpose is say L. Then K is the coefficient of permeability, A is the area, then HL by L is the value of hydraulic gradient. So we can easily find out the discharge. Now these are the values of coefficient of permeability based on soil type: form, coarse, fine, fine sand, dense silt, clay, silt, clay, right? These are the values of K. Now next topic is pumping out test, which is known as Dupuit theory. Again, it is find out coefficient of permeability and the discharge from the well. The coefficient of permeability of the permeable layer can be determined by pumping from a well at a constant rate and observing the steady state water table in nearby observation well, right? So coefficient of permeability can be find out with the help of this theory, and thereby we can find out the discharge of the observation well. The steady state is established when the water level in the test well and the observation well become constant. So this is one constraint of pumping Dupitt theory or pumping out test. When water is pumped out from the well, the aquifer get depleted of water and the water table is lowered, resulting in a circular depression in phreatic surface. This is referred as the drawdown curve or cone of depression. If we constantly withdraw water through well from the aquifer, then obviously the water level from the aquifer get decreased, and the decreased level form a curved surface, and that curved surface is known as drawdown curve. So these are the assumptions of Dupitt theory. The aquifer is homogeneous, Darcy's law is valid, flow is horizontal, well penetrate entire thickness of the aquifer. Total penetration is required. Then natural groundwater regime remains constant with time, and Dupitt theory is valid. That is, I is equal to dz by dr, where I is hydraulic gradient and this is z vertical height, r is the radius of well. So these are the assumptions made in pumping out test. Like this, what we have discussed in this slide, the same is reflect with figure, right? The figure shows the test well over here with discharge q, right? Radius r, the well is fully penetrated up to the impermeous strata, or we can say aquiclude, and if we constantly withdraw water from an aquifer, then we get drawdown curve. Now there are two conditions that we withdraw water from confined aquifer and unconfined aquifer. So this case, okay, this figure is of well hydraulic Dupitt times theory pumping out test, which get steady state flow to a well in unconfined aquifer, right? Here is the description. Field permeability test or pumping out test for an unconfined aquifer, right? For this, just you have to remember or study the figure. Now for this theory is important for example point of view, right? Based on this figure, we can calculate the coefficient of permeability or discharge. What we have to remember first, in example, first we have to remember or we have to find whether the well is dug from the confined aquifer or unconfined aquifer, right? So this figure show this is unconfined aquifer. How we will find? See, this is impermeable strata and this is water table, and we get water in between, and that's why this is unconfined aquifer figure. Let's see the values which I show you one by one. There are three wells. First well, second and third. Three wells are there. This is our test well, and these two are observation well. Okay, you have to draw three wells. Now what we have to study? We have to study the drawdown curve. If we want to study drawdown, the main thing is pumped out, or the pumping is done from the test well at constant rate Q. If we withdraw water from the well from an unconfined aquifer at a constant discharge Q, then the water level now get decrease, obviously. So initially the height or the water level is at its original water table. After constant pumping rate, it comes at lower level over here. Now the water in the well comes from the surroundings. So finally this straight line become the curve line, and these curve formation of groundwater table is known as drawdown curve. Now let's see the denotation one by one. First of all, the small r's are the radius of different well. Z, different Z values are the depth of water in the well from impermeable layers. D value. The denotation may vary from book to book, from author to author, right? But the figure is same, right? So just you have to remember the figure, right? In few books, the value of depth of water is H, right? So what is that, or how, which things we want to denote is important, right? What we have to denote to derive an equation. First, the radius of well. A radius is always denoted by r. And second, depth of water in the well is over here denoted by z. For three wells you can write down z1, z2, z, right? Because these two are the observation wells, so we can denote them as 1 2 1 2. But this is test well, having denotation like 0 or z, z0 or z. So z are the depth of water. D are known as drawdown. Drawdown means the depth, open depth from the top surface of the water in the well and the original water table. Clear? Drawdown. So right, these are the denotation. One extra denotation is H, which is the depth of original water table from the impermeable boundary, or we can say depth of aquifer, right? Depth of aquifer, right? These are the denotation for unconfined aquifer, steady state flow in unconfined aquifer. Now here is the description. Let r and z be the radial distance and height above the impermeable boundary at any point on the drawdown curve as shown in figure. At steady state, the rate of discharge due to pumping, rate of discharge means Q, as per Darcy's law is KIA. The hydraulic gradient I is depth Z and radius R, dz by dr. So discharge in terms of dz by dr is like this. Area of well is equal to 2 pi rz. So with differentiating and integrating, we get equation of K, coefficient of permeability. These equations we will discuss in detail in examples video, right? It is theory point of view. I will not go in detail about this equation. This topic is important in example part, right? Just we have to put the values in the equation. From where it is derived is will not ask in exam. So let's continue. If the value of R1, R2 means radius, Z1, Z2, the depth of water in the wells, and Q, the discharge are known, the coefficient of permeability can be calculated using above relation, means K can be calculated with this equation. Same things for confined aquifer. So this figure is for the theory of filled permeability test, pumping out test in confined aquifer. Same denotation R, Z and D, but here we have to show confined aquifer. And confined aquifer means upper layer and bottom layer is confined, impermeable layer. So here one more denotation of depth of aquifer is there, which is capital H. All other terms and the details are same, right? So this is the equation of coefficient of permeability for confined aquifer pumping out test or steady state flow to well in confined aquifer. So again we have the radius of well, the depth of flow or depth of water, and the discharge. We get the coefficient of permeability with the help of this equation, right? So we will see the different types of equation in detail in my example of groundwater video. Let's see briefly the types of well. So based on the depth, there are two types of well: open well and tube well. So this is the figure of or schematic view of rock lining dug well and pervious concrete lining dug well. So periphery of the well is done with the help of rocks and with the help of pervious concrete. This bifurcation is there. Dug well, or what is open well? Open well have been the major mean of domestic water supply throughout the span of the recorded history of mankind, right? They are also used extensively in small scale irrigation purpose. Compared with tube wells, open wells are shallow and usually used to tap water table aquifers. So in village nowadays also the water is available from the open wells. So having large diameter, curbing material is usually concrete rocks with loose joints. Water enters well through loose casing joints. Low well yield, highly vulnerable to contamination. The types of open well are online, wells with pervious lining, wells with impervious lining, and duct cum bore wells. Second is tube wells. So there are many classification like screen wells. Screen permits water to enter the well from the saturated aquifer, prevents sedimentation. Strainer wells. It essentially consists of perforated or a slotted pipe with wire mesh wrapped around the pipe with smaller annular space between the two. The strainer is provided, slotted pipe is provided within the well. Then third is slotted pipe, gravel pipe well. So gravels are used. Cavity wells. It is a shallow tube well drilled in alluvial formation. A cavity tube well draw water from bottom of the well and not from the sides. Drilled well. Method of construction: drilled well. Construction using rotary cable tool, jetting, hollow rods, and auger rings. Casing material can be of steel and PVC, and the depth 15 meter. Then driven wells cannot be driven into bedrock, but well point driven with ground with post drivers, tripods with weight, or sledge hammers. right? And the depth is less than 10 meter. Jet well. Jetted wells are constructed by employing the erosive action of stream of water to cut a hole inside which a well screen and rising pipes can be inserted after completion. So with the help of water jet, the wells are dug. So this is the simple figure which show the hand dug well, auger and bore holes with different manners. So this is just informatory topic of types of well. The important part of this uh, groundwater hydrology is the examples to calculate the discharge or different parameters that we will discuss in my example video. Thank you.